Hey kids, welcome to Unit 2, Lesson 1, Attributes, Exercise number 9. We have a Choose Your Own Adventure. I'm going to go ahead and do B, Desserts and Pies. Let's see what we have to do. We have to create the dessert class by declaring instance variables for the specified attributes. And then we're going to refactor the pie class to be a subclass of the dessert class. And refactoring is just reworking the code so it's more efficient. This usually means we're creating subclasses from a superclass. Then, in dessert class, we're going to declare instance variables for the following attributes: flavor, dessert, and price of dessert. Remember, our private instance variables are our attributes. Our attributes describe our class, our behaviors, or our methods. Those are the things that the class does. We're going to refactor the pie class to be a subclass of the dessert class. And then over here in Food Runner, we're going to instantiate a dessert object and a pie object and print the instance variables for the dessert and pie objects by calling this little snippet of code down here. So the first thing we have to do is create this dessert class by creating some private instance variables. Let's go ahead and go over to dessert. We have a public class dessert, nothing else here but a space to write our instance variables. And how do we do that? Well, there is an anatomy to that. We're going to use an accessor method. We've been using public a lot. Now we're going to use private. Why private? Well, we don't want anything outside of this class or blueprint to make changes to the class. I often bring this silly little comic up from Star Trek. We have Dr. Crusher flying into the sun. She is saying, set the temperature for hot. Computer asks, what's hot? She says, millions of kelvins. Then later, Captain Picard is going to order some tea. He says, Earl Grey, hot. And the computer gives the same millions of kelvins temperature. To me, it's a funny little example of what this is. Encapsulation. We're making sure our class doesn't have access outside of it. Because once we start changing the class from the outside, all kind of wacky things can happen. So we're going to use private as our access modifier. After private, the next part of our anatomy is the data type. Remember, we have 4 that we're going to work with in this class. That is our Boolean, that's true or false. Int, that's our whole numbers. Doubles, those are our decimals. And strings, which are our words. For the first one, we're going to do flavor. That is going to be a string. Don't forget it's a capital S. And then we're just going to put dessert. Don't forget your semicolon. Next one, we're going to do price. It is going to be private as well. Price is probably going to be a double because it's going to be a decimal. And we'll just do a price. This actually should be flavor. Let's change it. Be a little correct here, kids. And now we have 2 instance variables to build our blueprint. This dessert has a flavor and a price. You know what also has a flavor and a price? Our pie. And if you look at this class, you can see we have flavor and price here. And much like how we inherited methods from class to class, we can do that with our attributes or private instance variables. How do we do that? Well, we're going to refactor pie to be a subclass of the desserts class. So we're going to extends dessert. Now that's a subclass of the dessert class. Since that has strings for flavor and price, we can go ahead and comment that out. We should double check and make sure we have it spelled the same way. Flavor, flavor, price, price. Looks pretty good there. Not all our desserts are round. Pies definitely are. That means we add an extra attribute, a diameter. From there, we could create a lot of dessert classes. A cookie, a cake, all sorts of delicious things. That takes care of number 2, which is refactoring the pie class to be a subclass of dessert. Now we have to go back to our food truck runner we have to instantiate our object. We have to do one from dessert. So dessert, we'll call it a cake equals a new dessert. Don't forget your parentheses and a semicolon. We should comment this out too. This creates a dessert object. The next one we're going to do is create a pie object. And that's going to be pie. And we'll do a delicious cherry pie. That's a new pie. Don't forget your parentheses and semicolon. Now we have to print both of them. This is going to print the dessert object. I'm going to come down here and copy this code. Control C, Control V. This does need a semicolon. What is the name of the object? Well, we just created an object right here, cake. Well, that means that's going to be cake. Now we're going to print the pie object. Do the same thing. Control V. Don't forget your semicolon. Well, this time it is a cherry, so we're going to call cherry. Now when I hit run, I should get a print off of my dessert attributes and my pie attributes with diameter. Well, let's see if that's right. So you can see for my dessert class, I have my flavor and price. In my pie class, I have my diameter. And I also inherited from the dessert class my flavor and price. Pretty neat, kids. And I think all these concepts are going to be really useful moving forward. We have a lot of takeaways from this lesson. First, if you remember this image that I always talked about, our core concepts of Java, you can see one of these is encapsulation. And I talked a little bit about this in our video. Encapsulation is a concept where the instance variables of a class are hidden from other classes and can only be accessed through the methods of a class. If you think of one of those cheesy, cartoonish pills with all the tiny little pills on the inside, that's what I always think about. All of our information is encased and it can't be touched. We can see it, but we can't change it. And that's really what encapsulation is. It's protecting those instance variables from changing. Because remember, once we start changing the blueprints of the class, all kind of bad things happen. Another part of this lesson was understanding attributes. And attributes are our nouns, or they tell us about our object. If you think back to the painter class, we had location, direction, remaining paint. Our behaviors were what the class does. So our attributes are our instance variables that set it up. Why instance? Well, we instantiate an object. We're going to create an instance of those variables in that class. And this all comes down to our accessor method. We've been using public a lot. Public lets us access stuff from outside the class. Well, when we want to hide it inside, we use private. How did we declare an instance variable? We'll use that private accessor method. Then our data types, whether it's a Boolean, true, false, int, whole number, double, decimal, or string, words. Then we give a name for our instance variable. No parentheses, just a semicolon. That easy. Finally, we talked about inheritance or refactoring. And this is just our superclass subclass structure. If you think about a pet class, we can create one class to share across all of our instances. All pets have a name, they all have a breed, they all play, they all eat. They also all speak. A dog might bark, a cat might meow, a cow might moo. These are things we don't want to change outside the class. So whenever we create an instance of this, we want to protect that. Hopefully all of this video helped you understand attributes a little better. As always, kids, if you have any questions, come see me. Otherwise, I'll see you on the next lesson. See you later, kids. Bye, bye, bye.